Hi, I'm Robin. Thank you for tuning in. In this video, we will talk in more detail about how the stress response works and how it impacts your physiology. So in the introduction, we mentioned that there's a variety of health conditions that can arise out of the body getting into survival mode, flicking on the stress switch and the fight or flight response, and then processes changing in the body. And in this video, we'll talk a little bit more about what exactly those processes are. So the fight or flight response, or the survival response, is one of the most powerful mechanisms that we have, and arguably it's one of the reasons that got us where we are as a species, because in an instant the body can reprioritize energy and reprioritize everything that's happening geared towards getting us out of a difficult situation. So let's get into more detail about how that's functioning. So the fight or flight response was designed in a time where life was a lot more dangerous for humans. We're dealing with other threats and saber-toothed tigers and things like that, and we immediately had switch from being potentially a predator to becoming prey of somebody or something else. And one of the things that's happening in an instant is that our body makes an assessment, and the survival response is actually the freeze, flight, fight response. Those are kind of the different steps that the brain is evaluating. So if we're confronted with a threat, first of all, our brain has to make a decision whether there's something we can do about the threat or whether there's nothing we can do about it. And based on that, our brain will make different decisions and our body will respond very differently. So let's assume we decide we're in a stressful situation and we can do something about it. Great. So that still leaves us with two options. If the threat is conquerable, then we either decide, okay, we can either, if we are bigger than the threat, then we're going to try to attack it. We're going to fight it. If the threat is bigger than us, then we're going to try to run away. And if things get really, really, really bad, if we think, oh my God, we possibly can't get out of this situation, the only chance to get out of it is to completely play dead and hope that this thing is going to lose interest in us because things are, whatever, we're not there anymore, and then we get out of it that way. So let's deal with the flight thing first, because this is very, very common. Or the baseline of that is similar in the sense that the body has to have access to a lot more energy very, very rapidly. And it also has to have access to the defense mechanism. So we have to deal with energy and muscle availability and the immune system. There's two hormones that get released in this situation. One is adrenaline, which leads to our heart rate increasing, our breathing increasing, our vision sharpening a little bit, everything, our alertness increasing, and our muscles being very, very ready to be able to do something as well. So the energy goes from the center of the body into the periphery, into the hands, into the jaw, into the muscles of the legs and the feet and things like that. So why? Because if we have to run away or attack, we have to be able to scratch, growl, bite, and all the muscles have to be have every strength available that they can. The other part is if we potentially get injured in a fight, we get cut or something, our immune system actually ramps up as a result of the cortisol levels spiking in a threat response like this. So adrenaline and cortisol, those are the main hormones that lead to the stress response being active. In the short term, this is fantastic. This is a healthy, positive response. Only if the stress switch gets stuck and the adrenaline and cortisol levels stay elevated over time. They're supposed to fluctuate. They go up and down during the day in our circadian rhythms and other things. And if they stay elevated, then things start happening that have a negative impact on our physiology. Firstly, those great readiness that we have in the muscles will start to become long-standing tightness and rigidity that even if it gets interfered with manual treatment or massage or something like that, the body will start shriveling up and the shoulders will rise up, they will turn inwards, the head will go down, and they really, really tense up quite dramatically. And we often recognize that as poor office posture, and people are being told, oh, you have to set up your keyboard or your mouse differently. Well, there is some truth to that, But it also, in the same office, there's often two people working the same job, the same hours, and one person magically recovers overnight and the other one just seems to be shriveling up more and more over time. Now, if you've ever seen an animal in distress, they will make sure they keep a very, very low profile, protect all the vulnerable organs at the front of their body, at their belly. The head comes down, the shoulders rise up, and this is then what we see in the characteristic stress posture as well. So a lot of postural changes are a result of the fight or flight response as well. And the long-standing adrenaline, still, heart rate is still increased, breathing is still increased. Over time, blood vessels get damaged as a result of that. That can lead to cardiovascular complications, heart disease, things like that. And the muscle tension and rigidity really starts impacting our posture negatively, so that the spine and the discs are suffering from that as well. So those are some of the negative long-term consequences of the adrenaline in the system. The cortisol has a different impact. First of all, it's starting to mess with our sleep-wake cycles. So evolutionary speaking, even if I get out of the fight, I have to make sure if the thing follows me home, I have to make sure that, if I'm asleep, every little noise can wake me up at night. So they actually did functional MRI studies, and people impacted by the long-standing stress response almost sleep with one eye open at all times, or one hemisphere of the brain still active, to prevent falling into deep, restful sleep. Well, that's really, really good if you're chased by a saber-toothed tiger, but it's really annoying if you have to recover and heal. And this is how our immune system gets impacted as well, because if we don't ever get into that deep, restful sleep, then we can't recover properly from exercise overnight. The cortisol also manages how much glucose is available and how our fat stores are being dealt with, which means that we actually, if the cortisol levels are still elevated, that we have to eat more because we're constantly hungry, because the body is trying to reprioritize getting things into the stress storage system as well. So we are more hungry, we eat more. As a result of that, we've got more excess to put in storage as well, and we gain weight, and it's really, really difficult to get rid of that as well, because it's a hormonal-induced obesity. There's not much that you can do with more exercise and other things, because you're not going to recover properly from exercise, you're not going to sleep properly, and you're still going to be hungry, even if you're eating good food. In addition to that, the digestive system is slowed down as well. So even if you're eating good food, the nutrient absorption is compromised, which leads to having to eat even more. So this is one of the other things we're going into another video about energy levels and digestion and weight gain. So those are some of the things that the cortisol and the adrenaline do. Also, initially, cortisol increases the immune response. Over time, unfortunately, the immune system starts breaking down, generalized inflammation starts taking over, and we're a lot less capable of dealing with threats and illnesses and disease and things like that. So this is how the stress response works on the hormonal level. Adrenaline and cortisol levels that used to fluctuate get locked in at a certain level, and until the stress response is addressed on the brain level, those hormones get locked into place, meaning that even if I'm getting treated for my sore muscles from the long-standing adrenaline, if I get loosened up, the brain recognizes that as another threat, and it says, oh my God, my armor is being taken away from me, and I have to make sure as quickly as possible to restore the state of normal again. And with the cortisol levels as well impacting sleep and recovery and hunger and things like that, it's very, very difficult to combat all those things individually. But if we can address that on the brain level, normalize the adrenaline and the cortisol, normalize the stress response, allowing the hormones to fluctuate in the body again, then all these other things that are almost impossible to fix from the outside start normalizing from the inside, because the body can start regulating again. I hope that gives you a little bit more insight as to why the stress response, the persistent stress response, can have so many different impacts on our physiology. If you have more questions, if you need information, I would love to see you for an assessment. The team and I will do whatever we can in our power to help you, and we look forward to seeing you soon.